The colossal human warship, HSS Tortoise, drifted steadily through the void, its engines humming at a slow but steady rhythm. Captain James Walker stood tall on the bridge, posture rigid, face calm despite the ridicule crackling across the combs. "Look at that beast crawl," sneered a voice in a melodic alien accent. "Do the humans power it with pedals?" Mocking laughter echoed through the channel. Walker kept his gaze fixed on the view screen, silent, as sleek alien craft darted past his ship with ease. The Tortoise was 10 times their size, yet lumbered along at barely a fraction of their speed. "Comes, mute them," Walker said quietly. "Yes, sir," replied Officer Davis, fingers dancing across his console as the voices cut away. Turning to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Reed, Walker asked, "How's the crew?" Reed's tired eyes told the story. "They're trying to stay disciplined, sir, but it's difficult. The Velox ships have been buzzing us all day, taunting. Some of the younger crew are taking it hard." Walker gave a small nod. He understood. The Tortoise was Earth's most expensive and secret project, 15 years in the making. From the outside, it seemed like a joke, slow, clumsy, outdated against the sleek designs of their allies. "Summon the department heads to the war room in 30 minutes, Walker ordered. "They need a reminder of our true mission." On the bridge of the Velox flagship, the Swift Striker, Admiral Krall studied the lumbering Terran vessel with open amusement. His ship was a marvel, sleek, fast, deadly. And like every Velox, Krall believed speed was the essence of war. Their entire military doctrine revolved around outpacing opponents. "Humans," Krall muttered to his officers, shaking his head. His silver skin gleamed under the bridge lights. "They design warships like floating houses." Laughter rippled from his crew, loyal and rehearsed. "Send word to Captain Walker," Krall ordered coolly. "Invite him aboard for dinner tonight. I want to see the expression of the man commanding that drifting stone." Inside the Tortoise's war room, Walker studied the faces of his senior staff, Chief Engineer Torres, Weapons Officer Banks, Navigator Lee, Medical Officer Chun, and Science Officer Miller. They alone carried the truth. "I know today's been rough," Walker began. "These Alliance trials push ships in every way, and speed runs were difficult." "Humiliating is the word, sir," Torres cut in, grease staining her hands. "My team knows we could squeeze more speed if we tapped the main reactor for thrust instead of its true function," Walker finished firmly. "Exactly, and that's why we're here." He activated the war room security field, walls humming as conversations sealed in silence. "The Tortoise isn't slow from bad design," he reminded them. "It's slow by intention. We weren't built for races." He keyed the console, and a holographic display shimmered to life schematics of the Tortoise, revealing hidden systems absent from official records. "This ship carries technology no ally has ever witnessed," Walker continued. "The gravity anchor demands immense reserves. Redirecting power to propulsion would make us faster, yes, but that isn't our mission." Banks gave a curt nod. "The Alliance competitions always. They believed speed was everything, because they had never faced an opponent capable of stripping that edge away." "Exactly," Walker said evenly. "Earth chose another path, while others chased velocity. We built a vessel designed to make speed meaningless." A message chime cut through the room. Reed glanced at her tablet, then lifted her eyes. "Sir, Admiral Krall has invited you to dinner aboard his flagship." Walker paused only a moment. "Accept it. Time I became better acquainted with our ally." The Swift Striker was everything the Tortoise was not: sleek, elegant, and swift. As Walker was led through its pristine halls to Krall's dining chamber, he felt the amused stares of the Velox crew. To them, he was an oddity, a man from a primitive backwater. Admiral Krall greeted him with the formal bow of his people. "Captain Walker, welcome aboard. I trust your shuttle ride wasn't overly taxing." The barb was obvious, suggesting even a short trip might strain human endurance. Walker answered with a calm smile. "Not at all, Admiral. Thank you for your hospitality." The dining hall was magnificent, vast windows opening onto the streak of stars as the swift striker maintained patrol. In the distance, the tortoise appeared to crawl, nearly motionless against the void. "A magnificent view," Walker remarked softly. "Indeed," Crawl replied, gaze shifting toward the distant human vessel. Though some objects diminish the scenery. Several VLOC officers chuckled under their breath. As exotic dishes were set before them, Crawl leaned forward. "Tell me, Captain, why does Earth persist in crafting such ponderous warships? Surely you've noticed the future of battle rests in speed and maneuver." Walker lifted his glass, taking a measured sip. "Every species solves problems in its own way, Admiral. Humans have a saying, slow and steady wins the race. A quaint proverb." Crawl returned with a thin smile, his eyes cold, but hardly relevant to modern combat. "Perhaps," Walker replied evenly, "or perhaps not. Time will decide." Crawl leaned forward, the mask of diplomacy thinning. "Captain, I respect Earth's freedom to construct vessels as you choose. But as your ally, I must be frank. In true battle, the tortoise would be prey too slow to dodge, too large to conceal." "I value your concern," Walker answered calmly, "but every tool is forged for a purpose." "And what purpose does your tortoise serve?" "One of Crawl's," officers demanded sharply. Before Walker could respond, alarms blared through the chamber. Crawl's communicator lit with urgency. "Report," he snapped. A shaken voice answered. "Admiral, we're receiving distress signals from Outpost Sigma-7. They're under attack. Unknown assailants." The air shifted instantly, formality evaporating as Crawl rose to his feet. "Excuse me, Captain Walker. Duty demands." "Of course," Walker replied, standing as well. "I should return to my ship." As they rushed toward the bridge, more reports cascaded in. 2 additional outposts screamed for help, then abruptly went dark. On the Swift Striker's command deck, chaos erupted as officers relayed updates. "Visual on hostile craft at Outpost Delta 9. A comms officer cried. The main display flickered to life, revealing jagged insect-like vessels weaving through defensive fire. Their speed dwarfed even VLOC ships, movements so erratic they seemed to bend the void around them. "What are those?" Crawl barked. "Unknown. Sir, no record in Alliance archives." Walker studied the screen intently, his eyes narrowing. Their speed was unnatural, not just swiftness, but a warping of the space they passed through. "Admiral," he said softly, "I must return to the tortoise at once." Yes, Crawl muttered, distracted. He motioned to an aide. "Escort Captain Walker to his shuttle." As Walker departed, he heard the Admiral's sharp commands. "Assemble the fleet. Signal Alliance command. Inform them the Swift Striker leads the response." Walker's shuttle surged him back across the void. The moment he stepped onto the tortoise's bridge, his voice cut through. "Battle stations." "Sir," Reed said uncertainly. "Alliance command has ordered us to fall back, defend Earth. Admiral Crawl is taking charge of the fleet." Walker's mouth curved into a grim smile. "Has he now?" His gaze fixed on the tactical hollow, where unknown ships shredded everything before them, while allied fleets scrambled desperately. "They believe speed will be their salvation," he said, voice low. "They're wrong." He turned to his crew. Steady and unyielding. Ready the gravity anchor. It's time to reveal why the tortoise was never meant to be fast. In the Alliance command hub, urgency ruled. Delegates from 12 species clustered around the sprawling star chart, red enemy markers spreading like fire. Admiral Crawl stood at the center, barking orders with confidence. "The VLOC's battle group will lead the main assault. Trebian cruisers will form the second wave. Human ships." He paused, looking at Captain Walker with barely hidden disdain. We'll guard the retreat path and provide support fire from maximum distance. Walker said nothing. Around the table, other commanders nodded in agreement with Kroll's plan. It made sense to them. Put the fastest ships at the front where they could engage the enemy quickly. After the meeting, Walker was approached by General Thorne, Earth's senior military representative to the Alliance. "I know what you're thinking, James," Thorne said quietly. "But this isn't the time to reveal our true capabilities." "Not yet." Walker frowned. "These unknown ships, the swarm they're calling them, they're moving in ways that defy normal physics. If I'm right, the Tortoise might be the only vessel that can effectively counter them." Thorne shook his head. "Orders from Earth Command are clear: observe only. Do not engage unless directly attacked." Walker's jaw tightened. "And if Admiral Kroll's fleet fails, then we re-evaluate," Thorne said grimly. "But Earth doesn't want to show all its cards in the first round." Back on the Tortoise, Walker called his senior officers together. "We've been ordered to take up a defensive position here," he said, pointing to a location on the star map far from the expected battle zone. "Official mission: guard their retreat path and provide long-range support." Lieutenant Reed frowned. "They're sidelining us." "Yes," Walker agreed. "But that may work to our advantage. We'll be in position to observe the enemy's tactics without being in the thick of the fight." Chief Engineer Torres looked up from her tablet. "I've been analyzing the footage from the outpost attacks. These swarm ships are doing something strange with space-time around themselves. It's almost like they're riding waves of compressed." Admiral Kroll stood proudly on his bridge. "The enemy will learn what happens when they challenge Thelians," he declared. "Our speed and firepower will overwhelm them." His tactical officer looked less certain. "Admiral, the enemy vessels are showing unusual movement patterns. They seem to be able to change direction instantly without deceleration." "No matter," Kroll said dismissively. "No ship can outrun Veloc's targeting systems." On the Tortoise, Walker and his crew watched the tactical displays closely as the Alliance fleet approached the swarm. "They're moving into standard attack formation," Reed observed, "spreading out to create a wide firing line." Walker nodded. "And the swarm's still maintaining their scattered formation, no apparent coordination." But Reed paused, frowning at her screen. "Sir, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from them. Pulses of some kind getting stronger." Walker turned to Miller. "Analysis." The science officer was already working his console. "The pulses appear to be space-time distortions, just as we suspected, but they're increasing in intensity. I think they're preparing to." He never finished his sentence. On the main screen, they watched as the scattered swarm ships suddenly converged with impossible speed, punching through the center of the Velox formation before the Alliance ships could fire a single shot. "My God," whispered Davis from the communication station. "They've surrounded the Swift Striker." The swarm ships moved like a fluid around Kroll's flagship, their movements too fast and unpredictable for the Velox. The Swift Striker's shields flared repeatedly as they absorbed hit after hit. "Alliance fleet is in disarray," Reed reported. "Velox ships trying to regroup, but the swarm is hitting them from all directions. The Swift Striker shields are down to 40%. Walker stood, his decision made. Navigation set course to intercept. Full power to forward shields. Reed looked up in surprise. "Sir, our orders." "I know our orders," Lieutenant Walker said firmly, "but I'm not going to watch good people die when we might be able to help. Communications, send a message to General Thorne. Tell him we're moving to assist." Admiral Kroll gripped the arms of his command chair as his ship shuddered under another attack. "How are they targeting us so effectively?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir," his tactical officer replied, voice tight with stress. "Our evasive maneuvers aren't working. It's as if they can predict where we'll be. Shields at 28% and falling." Another officer reported, We can't take much more of this. Crawls. Communication officer suddenly looked up. Sir, the human ship Tortoise is breaking formation. They're coming this way. What? Kroll couldn't hide his surprise. At their speed, they'll never reach us in time. The Tortoise mothered steadily forward, its massive engines pushing the huge ship as fast as they could, which wasn't very fast at all compared to the other vessels, but Walker didn't need speed. Status of the gravity anchor? He asked. Torres looked up. From her engineering station. Ready for activation, Captain? Power levels optimal? Good. Walker watched as they drew closer to the battle. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Several Relic ships were already disabled, and the Swift Striker shields were nearly gone. Sir, Miller called out. I've completed my analysis of the swarms. Movement patterns. They're definitely manipulating space-time to achieve their speed. The distortions are centered approximately 20 meters in front of each ship. Walker nodded. Then that's where we target. Banks, prepare to activate the gravity anchor on my mark. Weapons Officer Banks bent over his console. Target zone established, ready on your command. The Tortoise was still a considerable distance from the battle when Walker gave the order. Active gravity anchor full power. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a barely visible ripple spread out from the human ship, expanding rapidly through space like an invisible wave. As the wave reached the battling ship, something remarkable happened. The swarm vessels, which had been darting around with impeccable agility, suddenly jerked and slowed. Their movements became more normal, more predictable. It's working, Miller exclaimed. The anchor is normalizing space-time in the target zone. Their space-time manipulation is being neutralized. On the main screen, they could see the swarm ships struggling to maintain their previous speed and agility. Without their space-time advantage, they were just ordinary vessels, still fast, but no longer impossibly so. Communications, Walker ordered. Open a channel to Admiral Kroll. When connection was established, Walker spoke clearly. Admiral, the enemy ships have been temporarily slowed. I suggest you take advantage of this opportunity to regroup your forces. Kroll's face appeared on the screen. His silver skin marred with a cut across his forehead. For once, there was no mockery. In high size, only confusion and the beginnings of grudging respect. What did you do, Walker? He demanded. I'll explain later, Walker replied. Right now, you need to get your ships into a defensive formation. The effect won't last forever. As Kroll gave orders to his fleet, several swarm ships broke away from the battle and turned toward the Tortoise, seemingly aware of the source of their sudden disadvantage. Sir, Reed said urgently. 12 enemy vessels on an intercept course with us. Walker nodded calmly. As expected, prepare to demonstrate the second feature of our slow ship. Let's show them why turtles have shells. The 12 swarm ships cut through space toward the Tortoise. Their movements still affected by the gravity anchor, but growing more coordinated by the second. They were adapting. They're learning to compensate for thinner Malai's space-time. Science Officer Miller reported, his eyes fixed on his readings, adjusting their engines to work within the constraints we've imposed. Captain Walker nodded calmly. As expected. Banks status of defensive systems. Weapons Officer Banks looked up from his console. All shield generators at maximum, armor plating fully energized. The crew watched as the enemy ships approached, their sleek insect-like forms growing larger on the view screen. Unlike most ships in the galaxy, which relied on speed and maneuverability for defense, Theater Twas was built to take hits. Impact in 10 seconds, Reed announced, her voice steady despite the tension. Walker gripped the arms of his command chair. Brace for contact. The lead swarm ship fired first, a bright beam of energy striking the Tortoise forward shields. The human ship shuddered slightly, but held firm. Shield impact at 92% absorption. Banks reported minimal energy bleed through. More beams followed as the other swarm ships joined the attack, their weapons concentrating on different sections of the tortoise's massive hull. They were probing for weaknesses, Walker observed. Standard tactic when facing an unknown defense. Chief. Engineer Torres monitored the shield outputs from her station. The layered defense system is working perfectly. Captain, outer shields absorb the initial impact. Middle layer dissipates the energy. Inner layer prevents bleed through. The swarm ships circled the tortoise like angry hornets. Their weapons fire constant. Despite their best efforts, they could not penetrate the human vessel's defenses. Sir, Communications Officer Davis called out. Admiral Kroll is hailing us on screen, Walker ordered. Kroll's face appeared, his expression a mixture of confusion and reluctant admiration. Captain Walker, what exactly is that ship of yours? Walker allowed himself Asmal smile. A different approach to warfare, Admiral. While the rest of the galaxy focused on building faster ships, Earth decided to explore other advantages. Your ship is drawing their attention, Kroll noted. It's giving us time to regroup. Whatever you're doing to slow them down, keep doing, that's the plan. Admiral Torres out. Walker, to Nedo's crew. Status of the gravity anchor still operating at full capacity, Torres reported. But power consumption is increasing. The swarm is actively fighting against the effect now. Walker considered this. How long can we maintain the field? At current power levels, about 3 hours. But if they keep adapting, that time will decrease. Walker nodded. Then we move to Fazetwo. Banks, prepare the demonstration package. Banks smiled for the first time since the battle began. With pleasure, sir. From the bridge of the Swift Striker, Admiral Kroll watched as his fleet regrouped around him. The mysterious slowdown effect from the human ship had given them precious time to reform their defensive lines. The enemy vessels near us are operating at approximately 60% of their previous capability, his tactical officer reported. But they appear to be adapting. Kroll frowned. And the human ship, the tortoise holding position, sir. Their shields are withstanding concentration. Fire from 12 swarm vessels. Impossible, one of his bridge officers muttered. No ship's defenses could withstand that kind of focused attack. Kroll wasn't so sure anymore. Perhaps we have underestimated our human allies, he said quietly. Watch and learn. On Theater Twas, Walker gave the order. Activate targeting systems for quantum. Lock torpedoes, select 4 primary targets. Banks worked his console with practiced efficiency. Targets selected. Quantum lock established. The tortoise main weapons weren't impressive looking. No massive gun barrels or glowing energy ports. Just small, unassuming launch tubes scattered across the hull. Fire, Walker commanded. 4 torpedoes shot from the tortoise, seemingly slow compared to most ship weapons. The swarm vessels easily dodged them, or would have if the torpedoes worked like normal projectiles. Instead, the moment the torpedoes launched, quantum connections formed between them and their targets. As Walker had explained to his senior officers, the weapons didn't need to chase their targets through space. They created a quantum entanglement, linking 2 points in space regardless of the distance between them. The results were immediate and devastating. 4 swarm ships simply exploded, their hulls rupturing from within as the quantum effect bypassed their shields entirely. Direct hits confirmed, Banks reported, unable to keep the satisfaction from his voice. Targets destroyed. The remaining swarm ships broke off their attack momentarily, clearly surprised by the unexpected weapon. They're reassessing, Reed observed. Probably trying to figure out what hit them. Walker nodded. They won't find it in any database. The quantum lock torpedo is a completely new weapon type. Miller looked up from Hishion's station. Sir, I'm detecting a surge in communication between the swarm ships, encrypted. But the pattern suggests they're sharing information. They're adapting again, Walker said. Good. Banks, prepare a second volley, different configuration this time. Across the battlefield, other Alliance commanders watched in amazement as the slow, bulky human ship destroyed 4 swarm vessels in an instant. What was that? A Trebian captain asked over Thecamon Channel. How did they hit those ships? They dodged torpedoes. Admiral Kroll didn't answer. He was watching the tortoise with new eyes, reassessing everything he thought knew about human. Military technology. Sir, his communications spike reported. General Thorne of Earth Command is requesting to speak with you. Kroll accepted the call. Thorne's weathered face appeared on his screen. Admiral, Thorne said without preamble. I see the tortoise has revealed some of its capabilities. Some, Kroll repeated. What else is that ship hiding? Thorne's expression remained neutral. That's classified information, Admiral. But I'm authorizing Captain Walker to use all necessary measures to counter this threat. You knew, Kroll said, realization dawning. All this time you let us believe your ships were technologicalian fire. Not inferior, Thorne corrected. Just different. Earth Hazelway's taken a unique approach to problem solving. Back on the Tortoise, the battle continued. The remaining swarm ships had altered their tactics, keeping their distance and firing only occasional shots, while constantly changing position. They're being more cautious now, Reed said. They recognize us as a serious threat. Walker nodded, but they're still learning, adapting to our capabilities. He turned to Miller. What's the status of the main swarm fleet? Miller studied his readings. The bulk of their forces are still engaged with the Alliance fleet. However, I'm detecting a large group breaking away and heading in our direction. Estimated arrival 20 minutes. Walker considered this news. They've identified us as the primary threat. Good, sir, Davies asked, confused. Yes, good, Walker confirmed. Because now they'll make the same mistake our allies did. They'll focus on what they can see and measure. He rose from his chair and walked to the main tactical display, studying the battlefield. The Tortoise has 3 primary systems, Walker explained to his crew. The gravity anchor to neutralize their space advantage, the layered defenses to withstand their attacks, and the quantum lock torpedoes to bypass their defenses. And they now know about all 3, Reed pointed out. Walker smiled. Yes, they do, which is exactly what we wanted. He turned to his communications officer. Davis, contact Admiral Kroll. Tell him to prepare his fleet for a coordinated attack when the main swarm force arrives. What's the plan, sir? Banks asked. Walker's eyes gleamed with determination. While the swarm is focusing all their attention on neutralizing our known capabilities, we'll reveal why the Tortoise was truly built to be slow. He walked to a secure console at the rear of the bridge and placed his hand on the scanner. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a single red button, protected by a clear cover. Chief Engineer Torres, Walker said formally. Begin power transfer to the core system. Torres looked up, her expression serious. Captain, once we activate the core, there's no going back. The power requirements will drain our reserves to critical levels. I'm aware, Walker said. But if we don't use everything we have now, there might not be a later. He flipped open the protective cover. The bridge crew watched in silence, many of them seeing the secret system for the first time. This, Walker said, his hand hovering over the button, is why the Tortoise moves so slowly. Every other system is secondary to what we're about to unleash. He pressed the button. Deep within the massive ship, something awakened. A low-hum began to build, vibrating through the deck plates as the Tortoise's true purpose was finally revealed. Tortoise trembled as power flowed from its massive reactors into the core system. Lights dimmed momentarily the ship before auxiliary power kicked in. Core activation sequence at 30%. Chief Engineer Torres reported, her voice tight with concentration. All power conduits holding steady. Captain Walker stood at the center. Of the bridge, outwardly calm despite the tension filling the air. Status of the approaching swarm fleet. Lieutenant Reed checked her tactical display. 15 minutes until they reach or position. 47 vessels detected. Captain Walker nodded, and Admiral Krall's forces. The Alliance fleet is regrouping behind the protection of our gravity anchor field. The Admiral confirms they'll be ready to coordinate with us when the swarm arrives. Walker turned to Weapons Officer Banks. Prepare remaining quantum torpedoes. We'll need them for the initial assault. 6 torpedoes ready, sir, Banks confirmed. But that's all we have until production can synthesize more. The quantum-lock torpedoes were incredibly effective, but also complex and energy-intensive to create. The Tortoise had launched only a limited supply for this mission. Science Officer Miller looked up from his station. Captain, I'm detecting unusual readings from the swarm vessels we damaged earlier. They appear to be repairing themselves. Walker frowned. Self-healing technology. It seems so, Miller confirmed. Not full regeneration, but they're sealing hull breaches and restoring damaged systems. Adaptable and resilient, Walker muttered. This explains how they've overwhelmed so many outposts so quickly. A notification chimed on Taurus console. Core activation at 50%, Captain. The reality field generators are coming in line. Admiral Krall paced the bridge of the Swift Striker, watching the tactical display with growing concern. The main swarm fleet was approaching rapidly, and despite the advantage gained from the human ship's mysterious technology, he wasn't confident they could withstand such numbers. Status 04 fleet, he demanded. 27 vessels combat ready, sir, his tactical officer replied. 14 more with partial capabilities, 11 completely disabled. Krall frowned. Even with Theodore Twice's help, they were outnumbered and many of his ships were damaged. Sir, his communications officer called out. Captain Walker is hailing us. Walker's face appeared on screen, looking remarkably composed given the circumstances. Admiral, Walker said without preamble. In approximately 10 minutes, the Tortoise will activate its core system. When that happens, I need your fleet to move too. These coordinates. A set of spatial coordinates appeared on Krall's tactical display. What exactly is this core system? Krall asked. Something that will change the rules of engagement, Walker replied. But I need your word that what you see today will remain classified at the highest level. Krall hesitated only briefly. You have it, Captain. My word as a Velok Admiral. Good, Walker said. When the system activates, there will be a visible distortion. Around the Tortoise. Do not under any circumstances allow your ships to enter that distortion field. Understood, Krall agreed, curiosity burning within him. And then, Walker said with a slight smile, we spring the trap. Back on the Tortoise, the core system continued its activation seconds. The humming had grown louder and subtle. Vibrations ran through the ship's structure. Core at 70%. Taurus announced. Reality field generators at nominal levels. Spatial anchor points established. Walker checked the time. The swarm will be here in 7 minutes. Will we be ready? Torres nodded confidently. Yes, sir. The core will reach full activation in 5 minutes 30 seconds. Walker turned to his crew. This is what the Tortoise was built for. This moment when Earth joined the Galactic Alliance, we saw how every other species focused on speed and firepower. But our scientists took a different approach. He looked to the main view screen, which showed the approaching swarm fleet, their ships moving in perfect formation. They think they understand us. Now he continued. They've seen our gravity anchor, our defensive capabilities, our quantum torpedoes. They believe they know what they're facing. He smiled grimly. They're wrong. The swarm commander, a being of complex crystalline structures and neural energy fields, processed the data from its scouts. The human vessel represented an unexpected challenge, but not an insurmountable one. Its ships had adapted to the gravity distortion field, developing compensatoria,